Good evening, Lucia. I'm sorry for the delay. It's just that in the other class, the other students had a lot of questions today. Uh, I was basically forced to respond to them, but I'm going to compensate, okay? All right, wonderful. So let's wait for your classmates to get into, and we're going to start, okay, Lucia? Thank you very much for being with me. And as I say, I'm sorry for the delay. It was just the other students who got a lot of questions today, okay? But I'm going to compensate
Don't
the
worry,
time.
Carlos. I'm gonna wait, and I think that they're gonna into the meeting very soon.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Lucia. Okay, let's wait for them. Okay, Lucy, I don't want to waste your time. Let's start together. I hope the rest of your classmates are also going to get into, and if they don't, of course, they have the opportunity to watch the class through the YouTube channel, so it's fine, right? Well,
Okay,
let's start.
I was just about to text them the WhatsApp group. I don't know if you're okay with that.
Yes, yes, of
Maybe.
course, please. Yes, yes, yes. Of course.
Just in case, and we can start anyway.
Yes, yes, wonderful. Thank you very much. I'm going to support you actually.
Okay. Yeah, that's weird because I don't know.
Yeah, it sometimes happens, you know. Some people have their jobs or they have some last minute issue. They cannot
Yeah.
enter.
Okay. I was downloading the TOEFL simulation, and I saw that it might last like 3 hours, maybe.
Yes, yes.
So I downloaded, and I'm gonna do it on Saturday because I think I'm gonna have more time because I just come back from work and I didn't have time.
Oh yes, yeah, wonderful. Yes,
So
Lucia.
yeah, so I think that I'm in time to do it.
Yes, yes, certainly. You're on time. You can actually you can do it whenever you want, right? The reason why I recommended you to do it in the first week is because maybe by doing so, at the end of the classes, you're going to be able to test, right, how much you have improved, right? Because let's say you get 80 in your simulation, but after the classes, you notice that you got 95. Wonderful, right? You are seeing your progress. That's the reason. But you can do it
That's
whenever you
right.
want.
That's right. You have to see how much you have improved
Exactly.
on the
Yes,
beginning and
exactly.
the end. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Very much. That is the idea. So yes, but please feel free to finalize
Yeah. Another
those
thing, I was
simulations
doing
whenever.
the connectors test, and I didn't realize that they were videos that you had to
Yes.
watch. So
Yes.
I start test, and I was in work. I don't know if in this class we have to turn the video to turn it in the video.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, yeah,
So
continue.
we can actually meet each other on the screen.
Yes, yes.
Well, I was telling you that I was at work, and I was like, okay, I have time. It's just 6 minutes. I'm gonna do it. And when I was doing it, oh, just in that moment that I think that I free calls, and I failed the test. But I'm
Yeah.
gonna improve that. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I
improve.
understand you. No,
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful, Lucia. Don't worry, I understand. It's like work, it's sometimes calling us out of our time, but nonetheless, when you have time, you can complete it. It's fine. Yes, but
Yeah.
I think you do have to see some videos, right? You have to watch some material before you do it. And
Yeah.
actually, when you finish that, they give you a certificate. As far as I know, you receive a certificate in your Gmail that you have finished the connectors exercises. So
Yeah.
just do it, and you're going
I
to
don't
receive
know.
them.
I just get an email that I haven't I failed the test. So I
Okay.
don't know if that's gonna work to get a certificate for that. But
Yes.
then when I had the time, I watch the video and take my notes because it's important.
Yes. Yes,
Another
certainly. It's
question
very important.
I'm gonna aprovechar.
Mhm.
¿Cómo? Voy a
Take
aprovechar.
advantage.
Okay.
Yes.
Take advantage of this time that we waiting our classmates and we starting the class.
Yes.
That the calls work. I didn't totally get how is the work the calls thing.
Okay. Yes. Wonderful. Well, the way the calls work is that you remind that we have a website, right? That
Yeah.
is called executiveenglish.education.com. And
Yeah.
I sent you a document. It was a PDF document to the WhatsApp group. And if you read that document, you're going to find that in that website, you have the opportunity to create an account as a student. Once you create an account and you register there, you have the chance to reserve some 15 calls, 15 minutes calls with me. And what we're going to do in those 15-minute calls is that we are going to practice for the speaking section using a simulator that we have at the company. And we're going to practice just for the speaking section, okay? I'm going to be helping you with that, and you're going to be able to improve in that part. And how to reserve? Well, you just have to go to the document, and even if you have any problem, you can talk to the coordinator. The coordinator is the person who created the group in the WhatsApp group. She's the only administrator. If you have any other problem, maybe it doesn't work, you go with her and she's going to help you.
Okay, perfect. So I'm
Right,
gonna do it.
Yes, certainly.
Now I have all my doubts cleared.
Okay, yeah, clarify. Wonderful. No, it's my pleasure, Lucia. It's my pleasure. Thank you very much. Okay, so yeah, wonderful. So I think that Raisa has also gotten into the reunion. So let's begin. Okay. So thank you very much for being with me, dear students. I am very happy that we are going to continue with the speaking section. This is a very interesting section, you know, as I was mentioning yesterday. When I started also preparing myself for this exam, I had some troubles with this section, not just because of the time, because of many reasons, right? It's just it puts a lot of pressure on you. It puts a lot of anxiety because you have to speak in just 1 minute, in this case in 45 seconds, as we are going to notice right now. But everything, of course, with a good understanding of the matter and also with practice, it's manageable, right? So let's get into it. So yesterday we had seen that the first task in the speaking section is called the independent speaking task. Now, what is this independent speaking task about? Let's read. Now, before we read, let me remind you why this section is called the independent task. The reason why it is called independent is because in order to respond to the question, you are not going to have to rely on any material that ETS is going to propose you, but you're going to rely, or you're going to use, in order to respond, all the knowledge, information, and experience you have in your own life. That is to say, what happened to you, what you have studied, or the information you are aware of through any other means. The point is that you are not going to be receiving material. No, you are going to be the one saying and expressing whatever you have to say, all right? That is the reason why this is called independent task, and the other ones are dependent, or in this case, integrated, because you have to rely, or you have to take the material that ETS gives you, and with that material, you have to prepare your response. In this case, for this task, as it is independent, you are free. You can just respond with anything you may want, okay? There is a reason why this is called independent. Now, what is this task about? Let's read. In your first task, you will be required to say your opinion on a general topic, and you will have to defend and sustain it, okay? Pay attention to that. You're gonna have to defend and sustain it. You will have little time to finish the task, which breaks down to the following, okay? This is the timing you're gonna have in order to prepare your response and to deliver it. 15 seconds to prepare your response, and just 45 seconds to speak. It's not even 1 minute for this task, okay? So it's super limited, super short. So you're gonna have to make sure that all your information is concise, well explained, but nonetheless, it's able to be included in the entire 45 seconds you have, all right? Now, something I wanted to clarify here. I don't know if I told you this yesterday, but the point is, the reason why I included a picture of this man here on this slide is because I want you to think about this man when you are taking this task, okay? This is a personal, this is a character or a person who is maybe recognized by you. He's a very famous political commentator. His name is Ben Shapiro. And the reason why he's famous, it's because he has been regarded by many people as one of the best debaters of the world. That is to say, he's somebody who has his ideas, he believes certain things. Of course, we're not going to get into that. This is not a class about politics. But the point is, he defends what he thinks, okay? He defends what he thinks. He doesn't express his opinion and that's it. No, he defends what he believes. He gives arguments, he gives reasons in order to sustain what he believes. That is what he does, all right? And to imitate the character and the attitude of this character in your exam, and particularly for this task, the independent task of the speaking section, is what I want you to do. I want you to assume the role of Ben Shapiro. You need to imitate him for this task, in the sense that when you give your responses, you're going to be able to see right now, and you give your opinion about a topic, you are going to have to defend it, okay? Not just expressing it. You have to defend it. And you also have to convince To convince who? In this case, of course, Ben Shapiro convinces people, right? Audiences. Nonetheless, you are going to convince your reviewer that your response is correct. Remind that this section is always listened by a person. There's going to be a person, of course, a trained and professional in this area, who is going to literally just listen to what you have said, because remind, the speaking is going to be recorded by your microphone and the computer. And of course, the reviewer, some days later, or maybe some weeks later, is going to listen to you and is going to give you a punctuation, right? That is the way it works. Now, what is the idea? That you need to convince your reviewer that the option you are going to defend is correct, all right? And in order to do that, of course, you're going to have to offer good arguments and to be very much persuasive and to offer illustrations, as we are going to see right now. So that is those are the general aspects, okay? So remind, for this task, you have to rely on everything you may know, everything you may have in order to sustain your opinion, use it. Okay, so now let me show you how this looked like. Because of course, by looking at it, you're going to understand. Let me show you. What you're going to see on the day of the exam is going to be something very similar to what you are looking at on my screen right now. There's going to be here, or there are going to be some instructions. As for example, it says in this case, you will be asked to give your opinion about a familiar topic. After you hear the question, you will have 15 seconds to prepare your response and 45 seconds to speak. Everything we have already detailed. Now, this is the topic, or the familiar topic they are talking about. Some believe it is important to learn as many foreign languages as possible. Others believe that speaking one or two languages fluently is enough. Which do you think is preferable and why? As you can see, this is the topic, or the type of topic that ETS is always going to give you. It's going to be a super familiar, personal thing to respond about. It's not going to be a question about science. I don't know, what is, I don't know, 100 plus 125, or it's not going to be about chemistry, asking you what is the abbreviation of iridium. I don't know, nothing about that. Of course, it's not a scientific test. It's simply going to ask you about a familiar topic, something that you could think about, a personal thing, okay? And you're going to have to, as you can see, the idea for this topic, okay, or the idea for this task is to divide the test takers. Remind that you're going to take the exam with more people. For example, if you live in Bolivia, for example, or in Santa Cruz, right? In my case, I took the exam with 10 people, 12 people, let's say. So that is normal. You're going to take the exam with 12 people in your room, maybe more, maybe less, who knows? The point is, if you notice this question, what does it do? It simply requires people to take a position. But the point here is that there are just two possibilities. You go for black or for white. You go for the right or you go for the left. You go for it is important to learn as many foreign languages as possible, or you go for it's better to learn just one or two foreign languages. As you can see, it's dividing. It's asking you to take a position here or here, left or right, white or black. What are you going to decide? The point is, what you have to do, dear students, is always to take a decision. That is to say, you need to take here a position. You need to go for one of these options. Please don't practice this, because many people have done this, the following that I'm going to say right now. People sometimes are trying to avoid the fact that they need to take a position in this question or this task. They try to remain neutral. They somehow look for the middle line of the question and they say, well, I'm not sure. Both options have their positive things. I am going to respond that way, talking about both options and how negative and positive things all these options have. Is that a good idea? No, it's not a good idea. Why? Because the question is asking you to take a position, not to make a judgment based on good characteristics of every single one of the terms. No, it's asking you to take a position. So you need to go, as I say, left or right, white or blank, okay? You need to choose, okay? Don't remain neutral. Don't go for the middle line, but please take a position, all right? Decide something. Now, as you can see, you're always going to have that situation, deciding. Some people are going to go for, yes, it's better to learn as many foreign languages as possible. Other people are going to go for, it's just better to learn two or one languages. Fine. The idea is that this is always going to happen, okay? The topic is always going to give you options. You agree, you disagree, you consider this option to be better, this other option, you go for this, 2 options always, okay? Now, I wanted to continue with this. Let me show you. Now, of course, how are you going to understand this better? Of course, by looking at an example. Let me show you now an example that I have here for you, okay? Of another independent task. In this case, we are going to read it and we are going to listen to an example that I recorded myself of how to respond to the task, okay? So you're going to understand way more clearer. Now, let's get into it. Okay, so for example, in this case, let's read this other topic. And we can also, and actually what is going to happen, as I said, is that in your exam, you're going to have your headphones on, right? So there's going to be a voice of an instructor reading for you the transcript or the topic that ETS is proposing you. So let's read and also let's listen to how the instructor on your headphones is going to say that. Okay, so let's go.
Some people believe that raising children is the most beautiful thing a person can do for society. Others are of the opinion that a person's career is their most important task in life. Which opinion do you find more persuasive? Explain why.
Wonderful. As you can see in this other subject here, or this other topic, is the same scenario. That is to say, they are asking you to take a position. You consider that raising children is the greatest contribution somebody could do for society, or do you think it's profession? That is to say, to make professional endeavors and to dedicate to your career so that you can help other people. Which one is the greatest contribution to society? Well, again, you need to take a position, right? So now, given that we have already read this, as I say, after you read this, the instructor is going to say on your headphones, now that you have read this, you have 15 seconds to prepare. Start preparing your response after the beep. And there's going to be a sound like beep. And then you know that when that sounds beep, there's going to be a chronometer there that is going to start to go down. And then you know that your 15 seconds to prepare a response for this started. We're going to talk about that later, but the point is 15 seconds of preparation after you have read this, okay, to prepare what you are going to say in your response. Now, after you have already prepared that, you move on to the response. Let me show you a response that I recorded myself for this particular topic, okay? And then we're going to comment on it, but I want you to notice the following. Please pay attention to the words I use, because you're going to notice with the other example I'm going to show you later, because I have 2 examples of this, that I always repeat some phrases. And why, you may ask? Because I have a format, I have a template for this particular task, which of course I'm going to share with you, that allows me to always remain very well organized and to remain firm and constant in my responses, so that when I am practicing, or when I was practicing, I managed to perfect my technique, and on the exam, it was easy, all right? I was way more prepared than if I would have not, for example, had a topic, or excuse me, a format or a template, because a template, of course, gives you solidity, it gives you, it makes you firm, right? Constant. So listen to what I say, remind my phrases, and also pay attention to how I'm going to express a lot of personal things. That is to say, I'm going to comment on my response about things that in my life have happened and how they relate to the topic I'm going to defend, to the position I'm going to defend, and how they somehow support my position. They are supportive to my, or excuse me, supportive to my argument, okay, to my position. Let's listen. Doesn't matter, we're going to download this. Okay, let's go, let's listen. Okay, with regard to the topic, I believe that a person's career is the most important task in life. I believe this way because of the following reasons. First of all, children are not necessarily a positive addition to the world. Maybe they turn out to be criminals. For example, I had an uncle who had a child that got into drugs and began stealing things. Secondly, if you're really good at your profession, you can come off with a revolutionary idea to positively affect people's life. As I want, for example, to be able to enact a law to allow people to create enterprises with very low taxes to improve their quality of life. Wonderful. So as you can see, dear students, I used just 4 or 5 seconds in order to deliver my response, right? As you can see, I offer arguments, reasons in order to defend my position. In this case, I decided to go for the position that the greatest contribution that somebody can have for society, it's simply your profession. That is to say, if you remain studying, working on what you do, what you love, you can come with a revolutionary idea to help people, right? That was my second argument, actually. But what was my first argument? If you pay attention, my first argument, it was very easy to notice it, right? Was that I consider that children are not always a positive addition to the world. And what I did afterwards was to give an illustration of my own life, right? I said that my uncle had a child who also got into drugs and began stealing things. And of course, that is not something positive for society. Now, I wanted to tell you, this example that I gave of my life is actually not true. I actually don't have an uncle who had a child who got into drugs. No, I don't have it, thank God. The point is, it's not necessary to always remain completely honest in this particular task. After all, they're not evaluating you with regard to how good you perform your moral duties or how honest you are. No, they want to make sure that in day-to-day conversations, you are able to have empathy with people, to communicate from human to human, to talk about personal things. So the point here is to always mention personal things. As much personal details you can mention in this task, not the others, in this task, you're going to convince your reviewer that your position, the one that you have chosen to decide, is the correct one. Because think about it, for example, in Spanish, when we speak in Spanish, let's say that somebody who you know and you consider to be very honest and you trust him, tells you that now he began to believe that aliens exist. And if he gives you a lot of arguments, he says, okay, aliens exist because of this argument and this and this and this and this, and he gives you 100 arguments to demonstrate to you that aliens exist. Would you believe him? Well, maybe you wouldn't, but what if he tells you that he had a personal experience with aliens? Wouldn't you begin to think, well, if he had a personal experience, maybe that could be true, right? So that happens in human interactions when we mention personal things, how things have affected our lives or how things have impacted our lives. That makes our case, our convincing power way more effective. And that is what I want you to do, okay? To mention as many personal things as you can in order to make your reviewer to understand that the position you have taken is true in your life, okay? It does become real in your life, all right? You have to convince him that what you have chosen is true, okay? Now, before we get into another example, let's go for some general recommendations for this section. Let me come back to the presentation now. So we are here. First thing, first recommendation, there's no right or wrong position to choose in this task. Okay, let me explain you this. Maybe some of you were hesitant and said, what about if my reviewer, the person who listens to my response, is somebody who disagrees with me? Maybe he considers that that raising children is the greatest contribution you can make for society. If he disagrees with me, maybe he's going to lower my score, maybe he's going to decrease my score just because I have spoken or said something that is not politically correct or is not the most orthodox response. Maybe you are afraid of that, but I assure you, you should not be afraid of it. Why? The person who is going to listen to this response, who is going to evaluate you, is a professional who has been trained to remain neutral. And what he is actually waiting for is to have different test takers, because remember, you're going to take this exam with 10, 12 people if you take the IBT version. And let's say that 7 persons in your room go for the option that raising children is the best or the greatest contribution somebody can make for society. And 3 of your classmates, maybe including you, consider that your profession is the greatest contribution you can make for society. But the point is, the reviewer wants to listen to that. He wants to listen to you and to make sure that you are able to defend your position and to be convincing. Because that is not even important when you are in the university. It is important, yes, but it's even more important when you are working for a company, right? You need to be convincing, to convince people that what you have done is correct, it's true, it's fine. Now, please, as I say, don't hesitate to choose the option that you consider that is going to benefit your person the most. Now, that is what I wanted to say, because let's continue reading what I wrote here. Here. When you must decide what position to take on every statement, you may want to think which side you can defend more easily, dear students. Maybe that is not your actual position on the topic, but if you know that you can come up with arguments for that side more rapidly, you should prefer that option. Let me give you an example. Let's say that the topic that you receive on the exam, it's which do you think is the best animal as a pet, dogs or cats? Maybe in your own life, you prefer cats, but maybe you know that, or maybe it happens to you that at that moment, because remember, 15 seconds to prepare a response, right? 15 seconds to prepare a response. If it comes to you, or if it happens to you that you have more ideas, more reasons to defend the position that dogs are better pets than cats, then you should go for the option that says cats are better animals or pets than cats. Why not? Remind, what you want to do here is to be able to respond calmly, to respond fluently, to respond orderly, and to make yourself understandable to your reviewer. How are you going to do that? By being calm, by being organized, and by being well prepared. So if you are able to defend a position more easily, we'll go for that one. If you have more arguments that come to your mind at that moment for one reason that is not particularly the one that you as a person consider to be true, go for the other one. Why? Remind here, you are not tested about honesty. You are not tested about, I don't know, you're not tested in this case about any, let's say, moral thing. No, you are being tested about what? Your performance. So they are expecting that many test takers are going to do this, and it's fine. Because again, it's your English that is going to be evaluated, and you can evaluate your English saying truth, saying lies. The point is the English, okay? What you are saying, not, is the way you are saying it. It's not actually what you are saying, but the way you are saying. Are you able to make yourself understandable? Are you able to defend your ideas? Are you able to have congruency? What are you up to that? I mean, can you do that? That is the question. That is what they are evaluating, not the content itself. So don't worry about that, okay? You can, as I say, take the position that suits you the most, that it's convenient. Go for that one, all right? Now, second thing, once you have chosen a position and have begun to deliver your response, you must treat the position you chose as the correct one. Let me clarify this. This is super important. Want to go here? Okay. So, remember, I told you, when you are thinking what option to decide, or excuse me, when you're thinking what option to decide, when you're thinking what option to defend, maybe you were afraid before, okay, if I choose this one, they are going to lower my score. So you were not able to decide. As I told you, that is not going to be a problem. Choose the one that suits you the most, that you are going to be more comfortable with when defending it. Now, I wanted to say this. As I have said, and it's true, before, listen to what I said, before you have chosen the topic of your answer or the position of your answer, there is no right or wrong answer. That is to say, here you can choose. Raising children is the greatest contribution for humanity, or your profession is the greatest contribution for humanity. Both of them are fine. None of them is wrong or right. As I say, you can choose any of them, and your reviewer is still going to listen to you, and he wants to make sure that you're able to defend them. Now, what is the point here? After you have chosen one, imagine that as I did, you decided to go for person's career and profession is the greatest contribution for humanity. When you have decided that that is going to be the position you are going to defend in your response, then I say, and I tell you, at that time, that is the only right answer for you. You must consider, when you have already chosen your response and position, that the choice you have done, you have taken, is the correct one. That is the correct one. The other one, the people who take the other option, they are wrong. You have to show your reviewer that they are wrong and you are right. I don't want you to include your response, for example, yeah, my position is this one, but the other one is also good. No, because you need to be secure that your answer is the correct one. And to show to your reviewer that the other people are wrong, you are right. Okay, so you need to have this on mind. Never hesitating, never commenting positive things about the other side. No, it's your side, the one that you have chosen, which is the correct one. Okay, so notice the difference. Before you have decided, no right or wrong answer. After you have decided what position to take, then, okay, my position, your position, that is the correct one. Okay, defend it. The other one is wrong. You are right. You have to demonstrate that they are right and you are, excuse me, that they are wrong and you are right. Now, let's continue. What else? Let's read this. Once you have chosen a position and have begun to deliver your response, as I was reading, you must treat the position you chose as the correct one, as I said. Now, you must not express any hesitation to your reviewer. Remind that I told you, right? You have to be like Ben Shapiro. Why like Ben Shapiro? Because Ben Shapiro is a character that does not only what? Say what he believes. He does not only express his opinion, no, he defends it. And he tries to convince people that what he considers to be true is indeed true, that what he considers is the right option, is the right thing. So, as I say, excuse me, the point is you need to be convincing, you need to convince your reviewer. So if you're hesitant, if you're saying, well, I'm not sure, or if you are, for example, saying positive things for the other side, what does that show? That you are not secure. And if not even you are able to be secure of your position, how do you expect other persons to be secure of what you say? Right? How are they going to be secure about what you say? They are not going to be secure, of course. They're not going to be confident on your responses because you are not even secure. Now, as I say, avoid expressions of hesitation. Avoid all type of phrases like maybe or I guess or probably. No, always speak in an indicative mood. You remind when you were learning English and you had some grammar classes, right? And the professor talked about two different types of mood in a sentence: subjunctive mood and indicative mood. Subjunctive mood is when you talked about possibilities, things that could be. For example, if you say, let us mention, I guess it's better to have a profession rather than having children. And I probably consider that that is going to be beneficial for society if somebody, I mean, as you can see, when you mention subjunctive mood, you are speaking with what? You are speaking with possibilities. Maybe, I guess, I don't know, possible. That is the language you have to avoid. You need to speak in an indicative mood. You know what is indicative mood? Is when you affirm things. For example, with regard to the topic, I consider that your profession is the greatest contribution you can make for your humanity, or otherwise. With regard to the topic, dogs are better pets than cats. As you can see, I am affirming things. And later you continue, right? I consider this for the following reasons: first, second, third. And this is like this manner. And this is like this. And this is because of this. And I also have this. You are always affirming, indicating things. Okay, so I speak that way, indicative, affirming, not doubting, not suggesting, no, affirming. Okay, affirmative mood. That is what you have to talk about or to talk like. So convince your reviewer by demonstrating security, affirm, convince them that you're correct, excuse me, that your choice is the correct one. Okay, is there any question about anything I have mentioned until this point, so we can move on with the other example and the template? Anything, guys, or we're fine?
We're fine. I think that everything is very clear.
Okay, thank you very much. Wonderful. Let's continue. So let's go with another example. In this case, let's see. Some people think, okay, this is order topic. Okay, let's listen to the person or the instructor who is going to read this order topic that could also appear on a first task. Okay, let's see.
Some people think that the criminal justice system should exist to punish wrongdoing, whereas others believe it should be used to prevent people from reoffending after their sentence is over. Which opinion do you find more persuasive? Explain why.
Very interesting, right? When you listen to British people, sometimes the accent attaches your person, and then you cannot take it away for a while. It's kind of interesting. It doesn't matter. The point. This person said, or the statement says in this case, some people think that criminal justice system should exist to punish wrongdoing, whereas others believe it should be used to prevent people from reoffending after a sentence is over. Which opinion do you find more persuasive? As you can see, there's the idea, right? Now, let's move on. I have an example for you, of course. For this topic, listen how I responded. Now, given that you have already listened to one of my examples, I want you to identify, in this case, with more precision, which phrases I repeat, which characteristics you observe in my response that I always include, as in the other example. So pay attention to the way I speak, look for patterns, patrones in my response, and then you're going to be able to understand the template that I'm going to show you later way more easily, okay? So let's go. Okay, download it, doesn't matter. Let's go. Okay, with regard to the topic, I believe that justice systems should exist to punish wrongdoings. I believe this way because of the following reasons. First of all, because it is fairer to punish people with retributive justice, that is, to punish what they have done. For example, I saw yesterday a man who had raped a poor girl. He must be punished because he committed such atrocity and not otherwise. Secondly, because if you punish people very severely for what they did, you disencourage them to do it again. For example, I know of a politician that did not embezzle again of his authority after he got in jail. There you are. So as you can see, again, 4 or 5 seconds. So if you notice, I follow a pattern, right? What pattern do I follow? Let me show it. This is the template that I am following, and this is the one that I recommend you to follow as well. Now, I wanted to say, this is not a pattern, or this is not a format that it is new and I just testing it with you. No, this is the same pattern or structure or template that I used when I took the exam. And I know by experience that it allows you to have organization, that it allows you to be able to implement any other thing that comes to your mind at that moment. It works, it makes you understandable. It is good, okay? So please use it. Remind this pattern, okay? Write it down, take notes on this. This is the structure I follow. Let me explain it to you. The first thing you say when you begin your response is the following. You say, with regard to the topic. Of course, this is a mere introduction, but remind that some people, for example, like to respond to these questions directly. They say, I consider this. And they don't include a phrase that somehow catches the attention of your reviewer, right? Something like a hook, un anzuelo. So by saying, with regard to the topic, what are we doing? Well, we are introducing our reviewer, the person who is going to listen to us, to our topic, in a very polite manner, in a very interesting manner, with regard to the topic, right? Which sounds eccentric, sounds good, and we are introducing the topic. So the first thing you say, it's with regard to the topic. After you continue, or after you say this, excuse me, you simply continue with your opinion. If you listen to my 2 illustrations, after I said with regard to the topic, I always stated my opinion. For example, in the first illustration, I said, with regard to the topic, I consider that your profession is the greatest contribution you can make to society, right? So that is the introduction with regard to the topic, and then you express your opinion. Write that down, take notes. With regard to the topic, and then you express your opinion clearly, right from the beginning, so that the reviewer listens to you, know what you are talking about, know what you are pretending to defend, and that is going to be very, very good for him, because it's going to appease him, it's going to give him facility to listen to you and to understand you, okay? So with regard to the topic, you state your opinion concisely, remind, 4 or 5 seconds. Everything is concise, not expanding a lot, concise, all right, conciso. After you have finished to say the introduction and state your opinion, you say, I believe this because of the following reasons. If you listen to me, I always repeat this phrase, because of the following reasons. Why do I include this phrase? If you look at it, it is a transition phrase. What do I mean by that? That this is connecting my introduction, which is with regard to the topic and my opinion or my position, with the body of my response, which is going to be what? My reasons and arguments, the ones that I hold for having my opinion. Okay, so remind, in this case, what you have to do is simply, as I am mentioning, you have to state this transition phrase in order to allow your reviewer to know when you are starting your arguments and at what point you have finished with your personal opinion and with your position. Okay, so always include a transition phrase. Of course, you can vary the words, you can change them if you want, but I recommend you to do this one because, of course, this is one that I have tested and I know that it works. Okay, but of course, you are free to do as you wish with regard to the topic and with regard to the structure. Okay, so because of the following reasons, and then what do? Well, of course, just simply begin to mention your reasons. Firstly, right, and you mention the first argument you have in order to support your position. In my case, for example, remind what was my first argument in the first illustration? It was that I said, right, I consider that children are not necessarily a positive addition to the world. And by saying that, I am demonstrating that the people who say that having children is the greatest achievement and the greatest contribution to humanity are wrong. And what do I do after I have stated my first argument to defend my position? I always use an illustration. I cannot emphasize more, I think, because it's tremendously important. First argument, that is to say, what is your reason? Why do you say that? Why do you believe this? And after you say that, your argument, you mention an illustration. Arguments and illustrations go always related, always attached. Argument, illustration, argument, illustration. It's not illustration, argument, by the way. No, it's argument, illustration. So in your response, you state your argument and then you move on to your illustration for that argument. And what does that illustration do? It supports your argument. For example, remind the first argument I gave in our first illustration. I said, children are not necessarily a positive addition to the world. And how did I illustrate that? I said, I have an uncle who had a child and he got into drugs and now he steals things out of people, and that is negative. That is my illustration to do what? To solidify, to support what? My point, my argument, my reason. Okay? And as I said, an illustration is tremendously powerful in order to convince people that what you say is true. Remember my example with aliens, how your friend who says to you that he had an experience with aliens, that is going to maybe make you believe, okay, what does it happen if aliens actually exist? But because of the experience, not because of the argument, because arguments are usually boring for many people and they don't constitute their primary source of truth. Okay, so you say your first argument and illustration, right? Now remind that I said to you, I confess you, I don't have an uncle who had a child who got into drugs. No, but I mentioned that because I know this is personal. This is personal information. So the lesson here is, in your illustration, try to mention as much personal details as you can. If you, for example, have an experience in this topic, pues mention that, okay? Talk about that. Give an example of your life, something that happened to your uncle and how you were there, how that impacted your life. You can see, that is what you have to do, to mention that. Now, your illustration, as I say, it must be related to the topic, of course. That is to say, to your argument. If you were discussing that profession are better, and the reason it's that not all children are positive to the world, then you mention something like what I mentioned, right? Not actually all children are positive to the world, because some of them become robbers. Wonderful, that is my argument. And how am I illustrating that? Through my uncle's example. Now, I tell you this, if you don't have any personal topic that relates to the argument you are giving, as it was my case for this one, make it up, invent something. Because it's going to be, of course, harming you if you don't say anything, just because you don't have any personal experience that is actually true in your life. Remind, here, what you say is not actually being evaluated, it's how you say it, the way you pronounce, the way you speak, how convincing you are, how open you are to discuss these personal things, okay? So the illustration does not necessarily have to be true or real. It can be something made up, but the point is include an illustration, okay? After you have finished your first argument and illustration, remind, they always go together. First arguments, then illustration. You move on to the second argument and again, illustration. My second argument, for example, for the first illustration, remind what it was. I said, right, that if you pursue your career and your profession, if you make something revolutionary, you're going to be able to help many people. That was my second argument in the first illustration, which was good, of course. And the point is, what did I do? I illustrated that. How did I illustrate that? I said, right, that, well, my second argument, what was my second argument? My second argument was that, what was it? Do you remember what was my second argument? Okay, oh, it was that if you have a profession and if you're very good at it, you can make something revolutionary in order to help many people's life. That was my illustration. And I gave, right? As an example, and this was my illustration, I want to be a lawyer and to enact a law as a judge in order for people to make enterprises, to make startups without paying taxation. And that is going to help them to have a better quality of life. That is my illustration. As you can see, always mentioning personal things in order to illustrate my arguments, to illustrate my reasons. That makes my case incredibly strong, okay? You are not going to be able to imagine how strong is a case well constructed with this structure, okay? So follow it. Any question about the structure, please, so that I can help you with it? Anything that I can help you with regard to this structure? Or we're fine? Anything, please ask me. I'm going to be super glad to help you.
No, I think that is very clear. What I understand and the way I'm taking my notes is like you begin with the what. What is your opinion? Why
Yes.
you're choosing that opinion and how you can prove that opinion.
Yes, exactly.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yes, it's a very clever summary.
That helped us because you have just 50 seconds and have this structure is very helpful because when you have the topic or you have the question, you are able to put your ideas in something in the structure. So it's
exactly.
It's very everything for me at least. I don't know, Raisa, what she thinks.
Yes. So what about the other classmate? Are you fine? Do you have any question?
For me, it's everything clear. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay. So if we're clear, before we go, we're going to practice. Okay. So now please prepare yourselves. Grab a piece of paper with you. And we're going to practice how? We're going to practice just as it's going to be in the exam. And we're going to practice exactly with the same topic we were discussing here. Let me show it to you again. This is going to be the topic. Some believe it is important to learn as many foreign languages as possible, etc. Okay, so I'm going to paste it here in the chat box. Please read it, choose a position, and here I have a chronometer already prepared for you to have 15 seconds of preparation and then 4 or 5 seconds to speak and deliver your response because you need to practice, right? Now, look at my chronometer. It basically works as a bar who it's getting empty and empty and empty. When you see that the bar is completely empty, then you know that your time is over, okay? Just in case you want to know how much time you have. Now, how are we gonna practice? Simple, we're just gonna do one exercise before we go. Okay, the first one to respond is going to be, I'm gonna turn on this. The first person I see is Lucia. Okay, so Lucia, you're gonna be the first one responding, and then Raisa is going to respond as well. So I'm gonna give 15 seconds to both of you to prepare your response, and both of you, of course, is going to have 4 or 5 seconds in order to respond. Okay. So please, Lucia and Raisa. Okay. By the way, I wanted to clarify this. How are you gonna take notes? I think Lucia said it very clearly as well. You're gonna have your sheet of paper, right? Completely in blank on that day. What you have to do is, let me show you here, for example, my presentation. Write down in your sheet of paper, in your blank sheet of paper, the template you are going to use. This is, by the way, the template for the second task. So please don't look at it. You're not going to use this one, but the one that we are using right now for the first task. But the point is, you write down your template, the sentences you're going to use to start your response, in the middle, the transition phrase, where you're going to have your arguments. That's the reason why I marked those points, for example, there. And you leave some blank space for you to fill it with the information you have prepared for your response. If you have this argument, okay, you fill the blank space. If you have this other argument, you have this other blank space. You had another space for illustration, okay, you fill it. So the idea is having the structure, as Lucia said, and having a place where you can insert your information so that everything is organized and you just maybe can read it if you want. The point is to speak clearly and fluently, okay? So this is the way you have to take notes and prepare your response. You copy your structure in your or on your sheet of paper, and then you simply fill the blank spaces with the information you want to include in your response, all right? No more than that. Now, please, dear students, start preparing your response now. Okay, so now we are going to start, and later I'm going to give you some feedback. Okay, so please, Lucia, turn on your microphone and start responding the question now. Oh, wait,
Okay,
sorry,
with
sorry.
the okay.
Sorry, again. It was 45 seconds, not 1 minute. So please start responding the question now.
Okay, with regard to the topic that you give me, I believe that it's better to know as many languages as possible because that helps you to communicate us with a lot of people of different cultures. In my case, that's very important because I work in the tourism area, and you had the chance to know people of a lot of parts of the world, and you have to learn how to communicate with them, and you have to learn how to speak in their languages. So if you don't have to talk to them, you're gonna lose a work, or you might don't communicate with them. So it's very important to learn a lot of languages as possible.
Thank you very much, Lucia. Very good. Okay, so now, Raisa, please, it's your turn. Yes, very good. I'm gonna give you feedback later, okay? So please, wait a minute. Raisa, please turn on your microphone and start responding the question now.
Okay, I believe that speaking one or two language is enough because of the following reasons. First of all, I think that if you try to speak more language, you can confuse your brain, and I think is a little complicated. And the other reason is that you can communicate with people who speak the I don't know the enough language that you need. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much, Raisa. Very good response. Okay, wonderful. So I wanted to say congratulations to both of you because you are very good at this. Okay, I'm surprised, honestly, by how good you perform in this particular task. Some other students have more problems with it, but you managed to perform it very successfully. Okay, so congratulations to begin with. And now just let me give you some general considerations for you to think about in the interlude of today's class and tomorrow's class, so that tomorrow, because tomorrow we're just going to practice. All the class is going to be for practicing and practicing. So the idea is, for example, for Lucia, I like your response very well. Your argument is very well organized. You follow the structure. The illustration you gave for the argument you mentioned of meeting people and how you work in the touristic area, it's wonderful. It's compelling. Very good. That is what I mean when I say express personal things, because your reviewer is going to love that information. So keep up with that. The only thing, Lucia, and maybe I didn't mention this and I didn't emphasize, always necessary to mention at least 2 arguments, okay? One argument, if you just present one argument and one illustration, your reviewer is maybe going to consider that as not very much. He's going to say, okay, there is something lacking here, it's not enough. So remind that you always have to come up with 2 arguments, okay? One is, as I say, is not enough, but 2 arguments is perfect. If you want to include more, maybe, well, go for it. In my experience, trying to include 3 arguments is not good, is not beneficial, because you don't have the chance to expand a little bit and to make yourself understandable, because you just say everything super fast because you have to move on to the other one. But 2 arguments gives you the capacity to state things concisely, but anyways, to expand, to give it a little bit of life, just as you did. So wonderful, but always try to come up with 2 arguments and 2 illustrations, okay? But very good. With Raisa, for example, as well, very good response, Raisa. Your argument is, look at that. For example, it happened that, as I told you, right? People always disagree, and that is fine. For example, Lucia went for the other option and Raisa went for the other one. Wonderful, that is the idea. As you can see, you can defend your position, right? And that is what the reviewer is looking for. Now, wonderful, Raisa, your response is very well organized. You follow a template, you are fluent, very good, wonderful. The only thing that lacked to me, for example, was an illustration for the arguments you mentioned. Remind that as personal as you can do it, the better. For example, as Lucia did with mentioning her work, wonderful. If you, for example, Raisa, have any other, if you have an experience with this, maybe you try to learn more than 2 languages and it was difficult for you, you can mention it. Or for example, if your brother tried to learn 4 languages and he just got confused, mention it. Try to be as personal as you can. Mention anything that you can think about of your own life or something nearby you in order to make your case stronger, okay? So if you mention that illustration, for me, it's going to be perfect, okay? But very good response in ways. And this is for both of you, remind, avoid expressions like maybe or I don't know. I don't know is an expression that shows that you are not secure. And remind that you need to show security in your response, okay? So avoid using expressions as I don't know, or maybe, or I guess, probably. I mean, those expressions in this case are not good. Speak always in an indicative mood. This is the way, this is for this reason, and affirm, always affirm it, okay? And if you don't know what to say, my recommendation is to stay silent, in the sense of stay silent for a while, think about what you're going to say, and then continue as if anything had happened. Because it's normal when you are speaking in Spanish or English, if you are thinking about what you're going to say next, you stop for a while and then you continue speaking. So they are not going to punish you because of that, okay? Don't worry. Just as I said, simply stay silent for a while if you don't know what to say. Think about it, recover your idea, and then pursue as if anything had happened, because actually anything happened, right? It's normal to stay silent for a while and to continue, all right? So wonderful, both of you, very good. I am very glad that you have this level, and tomorrow I think that we're going to have a great time practicing for this section, okay? So before we go, please don't go. I have to take your assistance, okay? Stop sharing this, and please help me with the poll that we always feel, okay? You know that you help me a lot with this poll, feeling it positively. So please help me with that, and I'm going to take your assistance as well, okay? Let me see your persons here. Okay, here we are. Okay, so Rafael is not here today. Neither Sergio. Camila is not here as well. What about, okay, let me show you. Okay, thank you very much for the answers. Now, please help me to fill another poll. I'm so sorry for having to fill 2 polls. It's super similar, but the company every Wednesday requires me to ask you to please fill 2 polls, okay? I'm sorry. Super simple, just 2 clicks, please. The order poll. And now, Lucia Gabriela.
Present here.
Thank you very much, Lucia. And finally, Guzman Coca Raiza.
Yes, present.
Thank you very much. All right, wonderful. So you are here. Thank you very much for your assistance, by the way. It's been a great time. Tomorrow we're going to continue with this. It's going to be wonderful as well. Bring your piece of
Yeah,
papers.
it was very funny today. I think that we have a lot. I learned a lot actually today
Yes.
with the structure
Yes.
because I used to talk a lot. So have the structure
Yes.
and help me to have right answer. Thank you very
Wonderful.
much.
Yes, that's it. No, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. So please, tomorrow bring your piece of papers, have your microphones ready because we're gonna practice, okay? Thank you very
Okay,
much,
thank you.
Lucia. Thank
See
you,
you
Raiza.
tomorrow. See you tomorrow,
Thank you very
Raiza,
much.
Carlos.
Have a-
Hasta mañana.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.